So good morning friends. We'll be starting in short while within a 2 minutes. Today my talk will be on hysteroscopic polypectomy. It's a basic topic and a basic thing, but we need to know in and out because we face these cases on daily basis. After this lecture, which will be last be around 25 minutes, I'll be demonstrating live on Shimla Mirchi how to perform the hysteroscopy, what are the tips and tricks in managing hysteroscopy, how to maintain the distension, what are the dynamics behind. I'll be explaining you in detail after the lecture how is the operative sheet looks like, what are the fluid dynamics in that, how it is managed, when you put a Bitoki shaped sheet, what is the difference between the routine sheet. So we'll come to know everything about this in a while. So we'll be starting now. So today my talk is on hysteroscopic polypectomy. So good morning friends. What are endometrial polyps? It is nothing but a localized intrauterine outgrowth of the endometrial gland. It can be a single or multiple, sessile pedunculated. It can consist of the endometrial gland, stroma and blood vessel. What are the risk factors for the endometrial polyp? Age, hypertension, obesity, use of tamoxifen can induce polyp formation. Patient on treatment of infertility can mostly on USGU found some sort of endometrial polyp, and they are decreased with the use of OC-pill, progesterone and intrauterine devices like progesterone intrauterine device. The endometrial polyps are frequent cause of the abnormal uterine bleeding. In menstruating women, they cause intermenstrual bleeding, menorrhagia and infertility. They account for the approximately 30% of the cases of postmenopausal bleeding. In less than 1% of cases, polyp are associated with cancer. So malignancy with polyp is rare, very, very rare, and one should suspect cancerous polyp only in advanced age, like age more than 60, 65, they come with postmenopausal bleeding and there is a polyp, you may suspect adenocarcinoma in that. Otherwise, majority of the polyps are benign. So what does AAGL practice guideline for the diagnosis of the endometrial polyp? The TVS provide reliable information for the detection of the endometrial polyp and should be investigation of addition of the color or a power Doppler increase the capacity of the transvaginal sonography to diagnose endometrial polyp. Adding intrauterine contrast to sonography with or without 3D improves the diagnostic capacity of the endometrial polyp. We can do saline sono a histogram or saline sonography, and you can delineate polyp very beautifully. Blind dilatation and curettage or biopsy should not be used for the diagnosis of the endometrial polyp. These are some sonographic picture which can easily identify the polyp. The 3D has really made a difference in diagnosis of the polyp and a fibroid depending on the resolution we obtain with the adjacent myometrium. Saline sono can really delineate the polyp outline. How one can manage the polyp? The old strategy of doing dilatation and curettage is one of the option. But if people have hysteroscope, they generally put in the hysteroscope, diagnose the polyp, come out and do a blind curettage by using either a ovum forceps or a Eilers forceps. Second thing is hysteroscopic polypectomy. Third can be hysteroscopy and polyp morcellation using a morcellation which is marketed by few companies, but the equipment is costly. Hysterectomy in an advanced age, and medical management and recent advances and techniques. So we divide management in the 6 part and we'll watch one by one each and everything. So dilatation and curettage or hysteroscopy followed by blind grasping forceps and curettage is one of the method for managing the polyp because it is readily available, low equipment cost, minimal expertise required, and this all is we have taught in our residency, but it is low sensitivity. General anesthesia is required, hospitalization is required, complication rates are higher than the targeted removal, and recurrence rate is also high because we may not be able to remove it from the base and part may be left behind because it is a blind procedure. So we all need to stop this blind dilatation and curettage, which is nothing but a deliberate crime, and we should switch over to office hysteroscopy. So our routine practice of office gynecologic practice is bimanual examination, Cusco's examination. So we all have to stop this and switch to the office hysteroscopy where there is no use of speculum, no valcellum, no dilatation and no pain, and the patient is also awake and seeing pathology inside the uterus. So what is this ambulatory hysteroscopy? Today with the availability of the small diameter telescope, atraumatic insertion technique, which is nothing but the vaginoscopic approach, hysteroscopy can be performed on an outpatient procedure in the office setting. Also has a good correlation finding with inpatient hysteroscopy. Professor Stefano Bitocchi from Bari, Italy has changed the concept that internal os is not a circular but it's a transverse oval. So he designed the Bitocchi sheath which is oval shape which fits the internal os and we can perform it very easily. The concept behind this innovation is the circular diameter of the sheath causes dilatation, distension of the internal os and causes stretching of the muscular fiber and causes pain. Whereas transverse oval sheath fits into the transverse internal diameter and it's not caused distension and hence pain is avoided and hence can be performed in the office setting. Hysteroscopy reduces the cost as compared to the conventional, high patient satisfaction rate, lower complication rate, faster recovery, better result. Patient can herself observe normal and abnormal finding on the screen. Vaginoscopic approach preserve integrity of the hymen and hence beneficial in a young girl who is unmarried, sexually not active and is diagnosed with intrauterine pathology. Now this is a video demonstrating the office hysteroscopy where you have parked your hysteroscope in the cervical canal. You have not negotiated internal. Just wait water to fill the uterine cavity and you can see the magic. Can you see? It's open up the internal os and you can easily now walk inside the uterus. So patience is very important in doing hysteroscopy. Okay, so you negotiate the external os, keep your hysteroscope in the cervical canal for some time, let the fluid enter into the uterine cavity which distends the uterine cavity and automatically the internal os opens up. So this is one of the trick to negotiate rather than creating a false passage. So this is the power of distancing media. This is a hysteroscopy in a postmenopausal woman. Now we can see there is a stenosed external os. So what we can do with the help of the scissor, you can make small nick and try to open up the external os. And now you are entering the cervical canal. So this is the dilatation of the external os. Now you are entered into the cervical canal. This is the cervical canal. And now we are looking towards the internal os. You can see there is a stenosis of the external os. Now there is a stenosis of the internal os. Sometimes the fluid distension does not help and you have to go for the cutting of this fiber with the help of the scissor. So you put the scissor inside and open up the scissor. You can see that you put the scissor and open up. So this will dilate the internal os and then you can walk inside. See, now putting it and opening up the scissor and rotate the scissor. Can you see this movement? It's very important. So this is how you open up the internal os. And now we have reached the uterine cavity and you can see there is a beautiful polyp lying inside. You cut the polyp at the base and then with the help of the grasper you can remove it. So this was about the blind dilatation and curettage. Now we are coming to the hysteroscopic polypectomy per se. This is a video showing submucous polyp and the resectoscope is used. So you can see one can use bipolar saline resectoscope to shave off the polyp. It is easy to differentiate from the fibroid because you can see there are pores, gland opening inside the polyp, resected polyp. The feel is different. Fibroid will be much tough. So this is a soft polyp. So if you have an office hysteroscope like 2.9 millimeter scope, you can avoid dilatation. The question is asked on the forum that do you never dilate? No, it's not like that. But sometimes I prefer to put a scope via external os, go into the cervical canal, evaluate the internal os, wait for some time, and if there is a distension of the uterus which helps in opening of the internal os, better to go without dilatation because sometimes the uterus and you may dilate on the right side and there will be a false passage. So better to mark the Okay. So hysteroscopic polypectomy is accurate. Complete resection of the polyp is possible. Early recovery, return to normal activity, minimal hospitalization, low risk of complication, associated with good reproductive outcome, low risk of intrauterine adhesion with operative hysteroscope for the polyp. However, it increases the operative time, specialized instrument is required, and if you are using monopolar current, glycine absorption and its toxicity is known to everyone. High skill requirement than the blind technique, but there is an advantage of low recurrence rate and the procedure will be complete. So, whenever the polyp, you did not require resectoscope in all the cases of the polyp, but scissor and grasper are still hold the magic tool in learning the hysteroscopy. I know today we all have gathered here to learn the hysteroscopy. So how do we start the hysteroscopy? Can we go and directly start on patient? No. You have to practice. Like we practice on pelvic trainer, we need to practice. So what you can do is go in the market and buy something like this, Shimla Mirchi. Okay. So this will cost you some 5-10 rupees, and if you have a hysteroscopy setup, if you want color, you can add colors. This Shimla Mirchi is an ideal pathological uterine module because it has a septum, it has a polyp, and it will give you better working hand on, and you can improve your skills on this before operating on the patient. So this is the Mirchi polypectomy. It's a dry test. You don't require saline. You just put your hysteroscope with the scissor and you can just cut at the base. So this will definitely improve your skill. At the end, I will demonstrate live in my OT use of Shimla Mirchi, how to practice, and there will be some practical tips for this. So this is how you can do Mirchi polypectomy. These are the septum. There are ridges inside the Shimla Mirchi, so you can cut. It has a septum. After you have cut the polyp, with the help of the grasper, you can pick up one by one seeds and bring it out. This will help you removing some foreign body, osseous metaplasia, remnant of the fetal bone, and to pick up the polyp also, you can use this technique, or missing thread of the copper T. So this exercise will definitely improve your skill in performing hysteroscopy, especially operative hysteroscopy. You make one hole inside that and you can attempt a cannulation. Okay, so this is how you learn almost 50% of the surgery on a single Shimla Mirchi. There are only 8 surgery on hysteroscopy, out of which 4 you can learn on Shimla Mirchi. These are the 4 simplest operative procedure one has to learn. Beyond this, there is a complex hysteroscopic procedure like adhesolysis for Asherman, submucous fibroid resection, and you can have metroplasty. So these all are technically difficult, but remaining you can simplest one you can learn on the Shimla Mirchi. At the end we will have live session on this. I will demonstrate few sheath what are available in the market, what are the technical glitch, how you can overcome that, and we will demonstrate on the Shimla Mirchi. This was a unique case of infertility where all the investigations were normal, and when we did hysteroscopy you find there are bilateral cornual polyp obstructing the ostia. We just remove that with the help of the simple scissor and grasper, and patient conceived after 2 months with a spontaneous pregnancy. So these are the small things where hysteroscopy play really a bigger role in achieving our outcome. So these were the small cornual polyp obstructing the cornu region. This was another case of the intrauterine polyp which is attached to both the anterior surface and posterior surface. You can see polyp is attached to both the anterior wall and posterior wall. So you just need to go at the base of the polyp at one end, cut it, release from the posterior surface, then you go on the anterior surface and cut from the attachment. While demonstrating on Shimla Mirchi, I will demonstrate how you can reach the base of the polyp. It's very important how to reach the base of the polyp. There are specific tricks, cable movements which will help you. This is again a case of polyp. So what I want to highlight is you can see this arrow. Okay, this is a notch. This denotes the position of the light cable. So always remember, instrument will come from the opposite side of the light cable. So you can arrange your light cable in such a way that the instrument coming from the opposite side will go straight to the base of the polyp. Somebody has asked whether flexible scissor is better, but I think solid scissor is better because flexible one will wobble. So better to use a solid scissor which is very easy to manipulate. Generally all this procedure we do it under anesthesia, so we always dilate and remove with the help of the forceps. But what if you are not able to dilate or you are doing an office procedure, then how to proceed, how to remove this big polyp from the uterine cavity, that we'll see in the subsequent slide. Now this is the office hysteroscopy where we have not dilated. She is a 76-year-old female with the polyps. So now you see, before detaching it from the base, you cut the polyp in 3 parts. Okay, so with the help of the scissor, I am cutting the polyp in the 3 parts. Okay, so this is the one part. Now I'll again cut into another part. Okay, so when she was a case of 76-year-old with severe stenosis. Vagina was also very narrowed. We could not put any speculum. So only way was by putting an hysteroscope. We cut the polyp in the 4-part, and then with the help of the grasper you remove one by one piece. Okay, so you plan your strategy, how you will proceed with the case. It's not possible in all the case to dilate. If the cervix is flushed with the vagina, you will not be able to hold the cervix and dilate. So in this case, you plan your surgery. You go ahead inside, you bisect the polyp or you cut the polyp into 3-4 pieces beforehand, and then you can remove bits and pieces with the help of the grasper. Now this is the use of bipolar saline needle. This is a recent advance where you use bipolar saline needle. You cut the polyp in 2 parts and then detach it from the base, and then you remove each part with the help of the grasper. So these are the small tips and tricks in removing polyp. Coming to the hysteroscopic polypectomy and use of morcellation, hysteroscopic morcellation. This is the true clear system which is available in the market. We have a shaver from Karl Storz also. So you can see it is easy to use. There is no glycine. You can use saline for the distension. There is no electric current going into the uterine cavity. Short learning curve. However, the equipment is expensive. You can see the tip is rotating cutting tip. You just need to put this equipment in front of the polyp and activate the blade, and it will do a mechanical nibbling or cutting of the fibroid, and there is a suction attached to it which will suck out all the pieces of the fibroid. I'll show you the operative sheath at the end in how to put the scissor. Basically all the hysteroscopy operative sheath will support the solid scissor. You have to buy the 5 French scissor. There are various sizes available: 5 French, 7 French and 9 French. But routinely we are using 5 French scissors. Hysterectomy, everybody know, we have taken a class on hysterectomy beforehand, but rarely one will be doing a hysterectomy for the polyp. But yes, if there is a huge cervical polyp 5 cm, 6 cm coming out into the vagina, and if patient is not willing for only polypectomy, one man go ahead and do the hysterectomy. Or a repeated polyp incidence, advanced age, one can go for hysterectomy. Medical management is really non-invasive, but it is short term, and there is a limited evidence which suggests its effectiveness, and the recurrence rate is very high. The recent advances and technique in polyp management: bipolar diathermy. Now everybody has shifted from the monopolar with the use of glycine, have shifted to bipolar diathermy and use of saline for the patient safety, and we can prevent complication of the use of glycine. Okay, so that is very important, which is called as the TURP syndrome or hyperosmolality. So this polypectomy, we already saw that you bisect the polyp into 2 part or 3 part and then detach from the base, and you can cut it into pieces. This video we already shown, but this is the use of the bipolar needle. But the Indian needles are not that good. In few of the cases I have lost my needle because it got evaporated. So it's little bit dangerous. You have to have a good quality bipolar needle from either Karl Storz or German make, so that it becomes sturdy, or you use it once or twice and then throw it away. But this needle is really good. Somebody has asked, Dr. Jyoti has asked, should we use cautery if there is a feeding vessel? What happens whenever there are bigger vessels reported on the color Doppler? Even if you cut the base with the scissor and you come out, the bleeding will stop because the two uterine wall will oppose each other when there is a contraction, and the feeding vessel will get obliterated. Like after delivery and placenta delivery, how the bleeding stops. The same principle applies here. So you need not cauterize the base bleeder, and we have not found a lot of bleeding post-operative anytime. So you need not use current every time, or resectoscope for doing polypectomy. This is again a case of use of bipolar saline needle for polypectomy. You cut the polyp in 2 part or 3 part and then detach from the base, and then with the help of the grasper you can remove the pieces. Dr. Rajesh has asked that urologists still using glycine and monopolar current. Yes, definitely they are still using because they don't want to upgrade themselves. They don't carry their electrosurgical unit like gynecologists carry. We carry our own equipment, our own camera system, our own electrosurgical unit, and we work for the patient safety. So you still found that urologists don't update themselves to the bipolar saline because they have to change everything, resectoscope. We have already changed our monopolar resectoscope to the bipolar resectoscope, which has cost almost 2 to 3 lakhs extra. The electrosurgical unit itself costs 6 lakhs. So in our overall it is 8 lakh investment. So one has to really think urologists are not investing so much. But I have seen few urologists who are using bipolar saline nowadays. So coming to my own innovative technique of use of laparoscopic 5 mm tenaculum by the side of the hysteroscope to remove the firm and heavier object like submucous fibroid or a broken tip cannula. So this is how the position is. Hysteroscope and tenaculum go by side at the fixed distance, and under revision you can remove it. So this is the resection of submucous fibroid. The partly you shave it off is with the help of the bipolar resectoscope. You resect 40 to 50% of the fibroid, and the remaining 30-40% you can use laparoscopic tenaculum by the side of the hysteroscope, and you can remove it. The advantage is less absorption of the saline, and as you approach near the endometrial cavity, less thermal damage to the adjacent endometrium. Very good for the infertility patient. And there is a complete removal from the capsule. You can see we have hold with the tenaculum, you do little bit twist movement and remove. Mind you, this is absolutely under vision, so no chances of perforation or bleeding. You can see the entire fibroid is removed from the capsule. So it's very good, easy. So in a conclusion, so in a conclusion, polyp are common gynecological problem. Incidence increases with age, rarely associated with malignancy, common cause of abnormal uterine bleeding, infertility. Blind technique DNC should be avoided. Hysteroscopic resection or cutting with scissor is safe, effective, and allowed histological assessment also. What is AAGL practice guideline for management of endometrial polyp? The recommendations are conservative management is reasonable, particularly for a small polyp and if asymptomatic. Medical management of polyp cannot be recommended at this time. Hysteroscopic polypectomy remains the gold standard for the treatment. There does not appear to be a differences in clinical outcome with different hysteroscopic polypectomy technique like use of morcellator, use of scissor or a resectoscope. The outcome is same. Removal for the histologic assessment is appropriate in postmenopausal women with symptoms, and always send the specimen for diagnosis to rule out hidden adenocarcinoma. Hysteroscopic removal is to be preferred to the hysterectomy because it is less invasive in nature, low cost, and reduced risk to the patient. For the infertile patient with a polyp, surgical removal is recommended to allow the natural conception or assisted reproductive technology a greater opportunity to be successful. I'll be coming to the pressure related to the use and all in the OT. We'll be now going to the OT for a while, and I'll demonstrate what are the tips and tricks to prevent collapse of uterine cavity. Yes, and somebody, Jyoti madam has asked how you manage multiple polyp. It is still individual removal with scissor. Yes, if there are 3-4 polyps, you go ahead and remove one by one, or you can use resectoscope. But if there are multiple polyp and you use resectoscope like anterior surface, posterior surface, there will be high chance of Asherman adhesion formation. So you put a Foley's intrauterine to prevent the adhesion if you are doing multiple polypectomy with the current. With the scissor, you can avoid using intrauterine balloon. So take home message is vaginoscopical approach without medication, cervical dilatation, use of speculum or tenaculum, small diameter of a hysteroscope, bipolar instrument, and respect the uterine anatomy and physiology and correct the uterine distension pressure. It is usually Jyoti madam is asking whether it is 5 mm tenaculum or 3 mm. It is 5 mm tenaculum because when you are using resectoscope you already have to dilate till up to 9 or 10. So once you do dilatation up to 10, because I have a 26 French resectoscope, so you need a dilatation. Once you do the dilatation and then you put your routine hysteroscope, then by the side you need to have 5 mm tenaculum to cover up for the dilatation. If you use 3 mm, there will be a lot of fluid leakage and the distension will be hampered. So thank you very much. I'll stop my presentation here and we'll go to the OT and we'll have few practical demonstration which will help everyone. So just be online. We'll go to the OT. Okay, this is my consulting room. I was demonstrating through my consulting room. उसको बंद कर दो ऊपर से. Now we'll be going to the OT. This is waiting area. And this is achievement corner where you can see all photographs. So now we'll be demonstrating sheath. Oh, bit okay sheath भी लेके आना. Okay, so basically now we'll be I will be demonstrating two types of sheath which are available in the market. Okay, and differences. So show this tip. Okay, can you see this tip? Okay, there are three openings. One for the telescope, one for the operative channel from which the scissor will come, and one is the irrigation channel. Okay. So you can see here, this is 10 millimeter. This requires dilatation, cervical dilatation up to 10 number Hegas dilator. Okay, so this is a thick one. But the advantage is all the channels are separate. Telescope channel is separate. Irrigation will come from the proximal and irrigation channel is separate. And operative channel is separate. This is the scissor I am putting it. Okay. Can you appreciate? So this is the scissor coming out from the operative channel. So all the channels are separate in this case. Okay. Now I'll remove the outer sheath. So you can see this is the operative channel, this is the irrigation channel, and this is the channel for the telescope. So in this kind of sheath, you will have less collapse of the cavity because Rakesh, sheath देना. कुछ भी देना चलना है, इसे ना करना. ये भी क्या है ना अपना. ये तो पूरा नाम है, ठीक है चलो. Okay, so now this is a Bitoki shaped sheath. You can see now the difference between the two sheaths. Okay, can you appreciate the difference between the two sheaths? One is oval circular and one is circular and one is transverse oval. Okay, so the advantage and disadvantage. Now coming to the Bitoki sheath, what happens? The diameter of the sheath is reduced tremendously. Okay, by giving this oval shape. Okay, so now what happens? So it fits into the internal os. You go like this and then you rotate 90 degree. It will fit and you can go into the internal os. But the design is such that there are only two openings. One for the telescope and the common channel for the irrigation as well as instrument, operative instrument. Okay, so this channel is common. There is no additional fluid channel in this. So what happens when we purchase this Bitoki sheath and we start using it, you will feel that once you put the scissor inside, okay, because the irrigation channel and operative channel is common, will be sudden collapse of the uterine cavity. Okay, so this is very important. Now you can use Histromat for uterine distension, you can use pressure bag for uterine distension, but moment you put the scissor inside, the cavity will collapse because there will be some amount of the leakage by the side of the cervix, and the distension will not be maintained, the pressure will not maintain the distension, just because I'll show you something. Okay, can you see the tip of the scissor? There is a shoulder. Can you appreciate? Okay, actually ये निकाल देते, प्लास्टिक निकाल दे, रिफ्लेक्शन बहुत आ रहा है, पूरा प्लास्टिक निकाल दे. Okay, so can you see the shoulder? Okay, so scissor has a shoulder. Okay, and beyond this shoulder the shaft becomes narrow. Okay, so now see in end-on view what happens. When the shoulder is inside the sheath, the diameter is reduced. End-on, ऊपर से देखो. Okay, so when the shoulder of the scissor is inside the channel, the diameter of the irrigating channel is reduced, and there is less amount of fluid entering the uterine cavity. So what you have to do, either in that case, I'll focus here, either in that case you remove the tubing from the inflow and put it in the outflow. Okay, so that the fluid will come out from the side channel and will help in distension of the uterine cavity. You're getting my point? Everybody is with me, or there is any confusion? Okay, so one has to understand this is a 5 French scissor, this is a 5 French channel, but irrigation and the operative channel is common. So as soon as you put the scissor inside the operative channel, the rate at which the flow of the fluid will reduce, because the tip shoulder is thicker than the shaft. Okay, so once the shoulder is inside the sheath, the less amount of fluid will enter into the uterine cavity and the cavity will collapse. So either you go inside with the shoulder out of the sheath. Okay, now this you can see the channel, you can see there is a good amount of space by the side of the shaft and the fluid will enter into the cavity. Okay, so this will prevent the collapse. So either you remove the shaft outside, shoulder of the scissor outside the shaft, so this will help in the irrigation and this will prevent the collapse of the uterine cavity. Or alternatively, you remove your irrigation tubing from the inflow and attach to the outflow. Okay, so these are few tips and tricks one should remember. Okay, now coming to the design of the sheath, there will be always an outer sheath and an inner sheath. Okay, okay, so in operative sheath you will have a outer sheath and an inner sheath. So now what happens, sometimes we are not able to dilate the cervix. Okay, so you can just remove the outer sheath. Okay, once you remove the outer sheath, the diameter will further reduce and you will still be able to do the hysteroscopy because your irrigation channel is intact. There will be some amount of leakage by the side of the os and the clarity of the vision will be maintained. Okay, so this another tip you can use to reduce the diameter of the sheath while entering into the cavity. Okay, if you feel it's dilated, then you can use both the sheath, inner and outer sheath, and you can go inside. What is the advantage of outflow? Once you reach inside the cavity, okay, there will be a lot of blood and mucus, so you just open outflow little bit, the cavity will get cleared off with the blood and the mucus and the vision will improve immediately. Okay, so how does the fluid dynamics comes? With the pressure, fluid goes from the inflow channel, it goes into the uterine cavity, it hits the fundus. The fluid with the pressure hit the fundus, will slide on the side, go to the lateral wall and come on from the side pores. Okay, so this is how the fluid dynamics works. Like with the pressure, the fluid goes, hit the fundus, come to the side, and then it will come out via the outflow pores. Okay, and this is how in circulation there is an eddy current which forms inside the uterine cavity, and that will clear the vision immediately if you open the outflow. Okay, so these are the few tricks to improve the vision. Okay, now sometimes what happens, the os is spatulous. Rakesh, haath rakh. Now sometimes the os is spatulous. You go inside and there is a lot of fluid leakage from the side. So what I do is either you apply the Alice and pinch the internal os, or ask your assistant to put the finger by the side of the scope and block the external os. Once you do this, your uterine cavity is distended. Okay, so this is also very important step. Sometimes what I have noticed is whenever there is a submucous fibroid or a huge submucous polyp, because the uterus is contracting every time, the external os is open up, dilated, and it's spatulous. You did not put the cytotech inside. Okay, and whenever the hysteroscope will easily walking because the external os and cervix is absolutely soft because uterus is constantly contracting to throw away the fibroid out of the uterine cavity. Okay, so that is very important. I think Jyoti madam is asking, explain again. Outlet channel is also with the same channel, na? Oh, okay. Madam has clarified. Dr. Samir Pradhan has clarified the difference of opinion between Shawki pressure control and Bitoki flow rate control. Now, this is a very good question by Dr. Samir Pradhan. What is the difference of principle between Professor Osama Shawki and Professor Bitoki sir? Now, Bitoki sir has developed what is called as an easy Histromat. It's purely that guy is doing under no anesthesia. Okay, we have seen him operating in live conferences also where he just come, sit, talk with the patient, do office hysteroscope and come out. Now one has to remember the uterine distension pressure is very important. So what that easy Histromat does is the intrauterine pressure will never go beyond 45 millimeter of mercury. Okay, and that easy Histromat cost around 6 to 8 lakhs, but is intelligent device which will diagnose whether your inflow channel is without instrument or not. As soon as initially you put that tubing and it will sense, the machine will sense that what flow rate has to be adjusted to maintain that 45 millimeter of mercury distension pressure. Now if you put Caesar inside, immediately the setting on the Histromat will change and it will start pumping more fluid at more pressure to maintain 45 millimeter of mercury distension. Okay, so that is an intelligent machine, okay, behind the Bitoki sir's principle. And what about Shawki sir's principle is you give high pressure, you get the distension maximum, and your operative time should be minimum. Okay, because there will be fluid absorption will be a great amount. So if you think your operative skills is fast enough, you can finish the procedure in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or say within the use of couple of liters of fluid, you can go with the high pressure. Okay, but with few tips and tricks what I have given to occlude the external os with the help of the Alice or put a finger by the side of the hysteroscope, you will really require less amount of fluid because there is no loss of fluid or loss of distension. Okay, so that is the two different principle one can use. Okay, so if you are a beginner or if the os is dilated, I have kept both the sheath in my OT because if you have a very dilated os, you can use this sheath, directly it will go, there will be no collapse. If it is a small cervix, you can use Bitoki sheath. Okay, I have a 2.9 millimeter, I have 4 millimeter. Okay, hysteroscope, this is the routine 4 millimeter hysteroscope. Okay, and we have 2.9 also. Though that's all you can buy, whatever is required. Okay, now coming to the sheath, the inflow is always proximal and outflow is always distal by default, or there will be some arrow marking on the sheath if you can observe that. Okay, so these are the few things, like you can see the arrow marking. This is outflow, the arrow is there for the outflow, and here the arrow is there for the inflow. But that by default the input which is proximal is always an input and distal is always an outflow. Okay, so now this is ideal uterine pathological module. Okay, this will help you in doing learning all kind of surgery. Camera light there, padavut. Okay, so we'll be learning hysteroscopy on this. Okay, so I always ask my fellow to practice on this so that they have a good head-eye coordination. Okay, you don't require saline or something to distend this. वो अपना है क्या पुराना शीट दे देना, शीट वही दे देना, और ये अच्छा वाला सीजर है ना, क्लीन कर लो थोड़ा. Okay, so it's like will you teach submucous myomectomy? Dr. Shipra is asking, will you teach submucous myomectomy? I have a separate lecture on submucous fibroid which we'll plan next week somewhere. Okay, so we complete the entire list of the hysteroscopy. that lecture I'll combine with the recent advanced and newer energy sources and technique in hysteroscopy with myomectomy. So that I'll cover up later on. This today, let focus on the basic of hysteroscopy, how one can start, how one can do it. Okay. वो अपना 10 mm था ना शीट स्टूडेंट और कैनलेशन भी रेडी रखो. Light on brother. Okay. Now can you see that notch? The notch will always denote the position of the cable. Okay. दोनों दिखा hand movements और वो screen. Okay. If you can see that notch on the screen denotes the position of the cable. Okay. So that's very important to understand why I'll tell you. Okay. Now I'll puncture the. Okay. So now we are inside the pathological uterus. You can see. There are septum, okay, polyp, less polyp, okay, or we go from the opposite side to get a good polyp. Okay, in there we have many polyps here, for example. Okay, so now you can see my cable is on the top. Okay, now I'll focus. I'll rotate the cable and I'll try to go to the base. Now see what happens when I insert my scissor. Okay. So now I'm putting the scissor inside. Okay. Now you will notice the scissor will come on the opposite side of the notch. Just observe. Okay. Everybody with me? Okay. Can you appreciate? I know from where my scissor is coming. Okay, it will come on the opposite side of the notch. That is opposite side of the light cable. See, okay? It's very simple. So you will adjust yourself. Now again come here. Show my hand movement. Okay. Now in hysteroscope, both the hands should work together. Both the hands should close together. Okay. Because if both the hands will go away, your scissor will break. So you have to lock both the hands and everything moves together. Okay, everything moves together. You cannot operate like laparoscopy, you operate with the hands free, but in this, both the hands should lock together and everything will move together. Okay, so you lock both the hands and try to work in coordination. Both the hand will go together. Okay. Now come there. Okay. Now see now what happens. Now I have to I'll reach the base. Okay. So I'll focus. I'll take my cable on the opposite side. Now I know my scissor will be coming from the opposite side. Okay. So you adjust your cable in such a way that your scissor will be coming from the opposite side. Okay, if I keep cable on left side, I am not able to see. If I keep my cable on right side, I'll be able to see. Okay. So now I want to cut this polyp. Okay, now I know my scissor is coming from opposite side. See, I am reaching directly to the base. Cut it, cut it, cut it. Okay, now there are two techniques in this also. Like you fix your, you can fix your telescope and move scissor in and out. Okay, but sometimes if you overshoot the moment, you will perforate. Okay, so this is one moment. You go, cut, remove the scissor. You go, cut, remove the scissor. You go, cut, remove the scissor. But I don't like this because if you overshoot the moment, you will perforate. So what you can do is, you fix your scissor at one particular position and the entire assembly you will move in and out. Can you appreciate? Entire assembly you will move in and out. Okay, I'll go, I'll cut, I'll again come out, I'll go, I'll cut, again come out, I'll go, I'll cut, again come out, I'll go, and again come out. Okay, so in this way you will never perforate the uterus. You're getting my point? Okay, if you move your scissor too much, you will overshoot the movement and you will perforate. Okay, but with fixed scissor position, you will not perforate the uterus and everything will be under your control. Okay, see how I rotated the cable and I know from where my scissor is coming, and you can see. Now another question is how you will, sometimes they ask what size the polyp it is. So you need to measure this opening of the scissor outside on the scale, like whether it is scale up now, scale down. Okay, so you can always measure this much centimeter, this much centimeter, this much centimeter. Okay, so this is how roughly we'll come to know what size the polyp it is. Okay. स्केल उधर होगा साइड पर सामने. Okay, so hope these two techniques are you understand that either you can move your scissor or you can move the entire assembly. Okay. Now coming to the septum, you always mark the two ostia. Okay, one ostia here and one ostia here, and you draw an imaginary line between two ostia. And you can cut the septum in between. Okay. Now there are various concepts. Either you release the septum or you excise the septum using resectoscope. It's all a different issues. Okay. Now you can see the scale here. Okay. So can you appreciate that opening is roughly 0.5 centimeter. Okay, so if you can measure this twice, it's 1 centimeter polyp. So this is how you roughly measure your polyp. Okay, so we already learned polypectomy, we already learned septum resection, and now we'll learn cannulation. Okay, so in single Shimla Mirchi you can learn everything. Okay, this is how you improve head-eye coordination. Okay, how you make one hole inside. Okay, now this hole will represent your ostia. Okay, now some tips for cannulation is the ostia should always be in the center of the screen. Okay, so when you put cannulation, so now this I am doing cannulation. Okay, if my ostias are not in the center, I will not go there. Okay, so you adjust in such a way that this directly goes inside the ostia. Okay, so this is how you learn cannulation. So in one single Shimla Mirchi you will learn polypectomy, you can learn cannulation practice, you can cut septum, and if you have grasper you can pick up one seed and you can learn that. Okay, so I think any question we can take on Telegram. Yes, Jyoti madam is asking, is vision equivalent with 2.9 and 4 millimeter? Yes, the vision remain the same. Any difficulty in hysteroscopy in previous LSCS uterus position, tight os adhesion, how to overcome? So that's very good question. In hysteroscopy, how do you overcome? Ek minute chalu rakho. Okay, so now what happens is, now suppose this hole is the internal os. Okay, you are getting my point. This hole is internal os. This is full moon. Okay, the concept in hysteroscopy that this hole is internal os and it is a full moon. So if I am banging here, I will not be able to go inside. Okay. So what you are supposed to do is you bypass the posterior ridge. So convert this full moon into half moon. So I will take my hand down. Now this is half moon. Okay. And this is half circle. So that I have negotiated the posterior wall. Now I will be able to walk in inside easily. Can you appreciate? Okay. Again. Okay. Suppose this circle is an internal os. If I can see the posterior ridge, I will not be able to enter inside because I am hitting, my scope is hitting the posterior wall. Okay, so what I need to do is, I need to bypass the posterior ridge. So I will take my camera down and I'll bypass the posterior ridge. Now I am not able to see the posterior ridge. So now if I go in, I'll be able to walk in. Okay, so if this is the internal os, okay, I have to put it down and I have to walk inside. So walking inside the uterus is always under vision. So let it be previous scissor, let it be anywhere, like whether the uterus is diverted on the left side, right side, or uterus is adherent to anterior-abdominal wall. You follow this principle of converting full moon into the half moon and then you enter. Like this is the full moon. If you are hitting the posterior wall, you place your telescope down and then convert this into half moon and you will walk inside without hitting the posterior wall. Okay, so I'll call it a day. Then remaining question we can take it on the Telegram group of Jai Mehta and on my personal WhatsApp also. If you want to ask me anything, I am available. Thank you very much. Thank you.